The semi-truck dangles 40 feet down a Colorado ravine. The cabin is crushing inward. Inside, a man is dying. 3 rescue teams have already tried. State-of-the-art equipment, computer calculations, GPS-guided winches. All of them failed. The lead engineer closes his tablet. "It can't be done," he announces to the crowd. His voice carries across the frozen morning air, final and absolute. "The physics don't work." Then from 50 yards back, an engine rumbles to life. Not the smooth purr of modern machinery, something older, deeper. The sound of steel that refuses to quit. Everyone turns. An ancient wrecker truck rolls forward through the morning mist. 1948 autocar. Faded red paint. Chrome that's seen 4 decades of mountain roads. Behind the wheel, a man with silver hair and hands like worn leather. He doesn't speak to the engineers, doesn't acknowledge their calculations, just drives to the edge of the ravine, sets the parking brake, steps out into the cold. The young engineer laughs. "You've got to be kidding me." The old man walks past him, looks down at the trapped driver, and whispers something no one else can hear. "I'm bringing you home, brother." The call came in at 5:47 in the morning. Interstate 70 westbound through the Colorado Rockies, mile marker 216. A semi-truck had gone over the edge. Not just off the road, over the edge. 40 feet down into a ravine that shouldn't exist. The kind of drop that makes grown men look away. The kind that turns rescue operations into recovery missions. But Dalton Mercer was still alive down there. 52 years old. Father of 2. Husband of Fletcher for 28 years. Trapped in a cabin that was slowly crushing him. The first crew arrived at 6:15. Titan recovery, state-of-the-art equipment, hydraulic cranes with computer-assisted stabilization, GPS-guided winch systems, 3 trucks, 8 men, 2 hours of attempts. Nothing. The angle was too steep, the weight distribution too unstable. Every time they tried to hook the cable, rocks shifted. The truck slid another 6 inches deeper. By 8:30, they called for backup. Heavy lift solutions rolled in from Denver. Bigger equipment, more computing power, 4 more engineers. Another 3 hours, same result. Worse, actually. One of their cables snapped under the strain. The sound echoed through the canyon like a rifle shot. The truck dropped another 8 inches. Dalton screamed. Everyone heard it. By noon, the temperature was dropping. Weather Service called for a winter storm front moving in from the northwest. Temperature would hit 10 below by nightfall, maybe lower. Dalton Mercer had maybe 4 hours left. That's when Brennan Voss made his declaration. Brennan was 36 years old, Stanford University class of 2010, mechanical engineering with honors, 3 years at Titan Corporate, lead engineer on 12 major recovery operations. He stood at the edge of the ravine, tablet in hand, running calculations for the 7th time. "It can't be done," he said. His voice carried across the scene, confident. "The physics don't work. 73-degree angle, 32,000-pound unbalanced load, soil composition too loose for anchor points." He looked at Sheriff Thornton. "We need to tell his family to say goodbye." Then Brennan said something else, something that would haunt him later. "You know what the problem is. Everyone thinks experience beats technology. These old-timers who worked in the 70s and 80s, they think their gut feeling can override mathematics." He laughed. Not cruel exactly, but dismissive. "My grandfather was like that. Worked on cars his whole life. Refused to use diagnostic computers. Said he could hear what was wrong." Brennan shook his head. "That romanticism gets people killed. This isn't 1950. We have science now. We have engineering. And sometimes the answer is, it can't be done." Sheriff Thornton listened. Then he pulled out his phone. "There's one more call I need to make." "Who?" Brennan asked. "Someone who doesn't know that it can't be done." Thornton walked away, dialed a number he knew by heart. It rang 4 times. Then a voice rough like gravel in a cement mixer. "Cade." "Tucker," Thornton said. "I need you, and I need the autocar." Silence on the line. "Where?" "I-70 mile 216. Truck down a ravine, 40 feet. All the modern boys already tried." Another pause. Longer this time. How long does he have? 4 hours, maybe less. I'll be there in 30 minutes. The line went dead. Brennan looked at Thornton. Who was that Tucker Cade? Never heard of him. Thornton smiled, sad and knowing at the same time. You will. The garage sat on the eastern edge of Glenwood Springs, 2 acres of property. Half of it was the building itself, corrugated metal walls, faded red paint, a sign over the door, Cade's Wrecker Service, established 1979. The other half was the yard, organized chaos, old trucks in various states of repair, parts arranged in sections only Tucker understood. Decades in the making. Inside the main bay, the lights flickered on, fluorescent tubes that took a moment to warm up. The building smelled like motor oil and history, concrete floors stained dark from years of work. Tool chests lined one wall, each drawer labeled in faded handwriting, and in the center of it all sat the autocar. 1948 Model U. The last year Autocar made this particular chassis, built in Ardmore, Pennsylvania, inline 6 engine, manual everything, no power steering, no hydraulic assistance, just steel and determination. The paint was dark red, maroon technically, but 46 years of sun had faded it to something softer. The chrome bumpers still shine though. Tucker made sure of that. Every Saturday morning, polish and elbow grease. The same routine for decades. The wrecker boom rose from the back, 22 feet of steel arm, cable drum underneath, 1.5-inch steel cable, 200 feet of it. The same cable Tucker had installed in 1989, inspected monthly, replaced when needed. But this cable was special. Tucker knew every inch of it, knew how it felt when it carried 8,000 pounds, knew the sound it made at 12,000, knew exactly how much give it had before critical stress. That kind of knowledge doesn't come from a manual. It comes from repetition, from decades of nights when someone's life depended on getting it exactly right. Tucker stood in front of the autocar, 68 years old, hair more silver than brown now, face weathered like canyon stone, hands that told stories of their own, scars across the knuckles, calluses that had calluses, oil permanently embedded in the fingerprints. He wore what he always wore, jeans, work boots with steel toes, a flannel shirt red and black, and over it all, a leather jacket, black leather, worn smooth in some places, creased in others. On the back, a patch, faded but still readable. Road Ghost MC. The motorcycle club didn't exist anymore. Disbanded in 1983. Most of the members had moved on. Families, regular jobs, retirement. But Tucker kept the jacket. Not for nostalgia, for memory, for the man who gave it to him. He walked to the far wall. A small bulletin board hung there. Photos pinned up over the years, some in color, most in black and white. Pictures of trucks he'd pulled from ditches, cars extracted from rivers, a bus he'd winched off a mountainside in '95. And in the center of the board, one photo larger than the rest. 2 young men on motorcycles, judging by the clothes, early '70s. Long hair, denim vests, grinning at the camera like they owned the world. The one on the left was Tucker, 21 years old, leaner then, fewer lines on his face. The one on the right was Ryland Cruz. Everyone called him Rye. Same age, same wild energy, best friends since they were 15. They'd ridden together for 6 years, from Texas to California and back, from Montana to New Mexico. Living on the road, sleeping under stars, fixing bikes in gas station parking lots. Brothers in every way that mattered, except blood. Tucker stared at the photo. He did this before every call, had done it for 45 years. Still here, Rye, he said quietly, still trying to make it right. The photo didn't answer, never did, but Tucker waited anyway, listening to the silence, carrying the weight he'd carried since 1979, the weight that made him who he was, the weight that saved 51 lives, the weight that still crushed him every morning when he woke. He turned away from the board, walked to the autocar, ran his hand along the hood, metal cold under his palm. One more, he said. Let's bring one more home. He climbed into the driver's seat. The cab smelled like leather and diesel. The steering wheel was enormous, 18 inches across. No power assist meant you needed leverage. Tucker turned the key. The engine coughed, turned over, coughed again, then caught with a deep rumble. The whole truck vibrated, 6 cylinders firing in sequence. The sound of reliability, the sound of something built to last. Tucker let it warm up for 2 minutes. Always 2 minutes. Never less. The engine needed time to circulate oil, time to wake up properly. Rushing an old machine was disrespectful. Disrespect led to failure. Failure led to someone not going home. At exactly 2 minutes, Tucker put it in gear. The transmission clunked, heavy and mechanical. He released the clutch. The autocar rolled forward through the bay doors into the cold morning air. The sun was still low on the horizon, painting the mountains orange and gold. Tucker turned onto the highway, west toward Interstate 70, toward a man trapped in a ravine, toward engineers who'd already given up, toward the work he'd been doing for 45 years, the work that was both penance and purpose. The speedometer needle climbed, 40 miles per hour, 45. That was as fast as the autocar needed to go. Not because it couldn't go faster. It could hit 60 if you pushed it, but Tucker never pushed it. The truck had earned its pace, earned the right to move at its own speed, and Tucker had learned long ago that rushing didn't save lives. Precision did. Patience did. Showing up when everyone else quit, that saved lives. He thought about Dalton Mercer. Didn't know the man, never met him, but that didn't matter. Dalton was someone's husband, someone's father, someone who deserved to go home. Tucker had failed to bring someone home once, 45 years ago. He wouldn't fail again today. The mountains rose on either side of the highway, snow on the peaks despite it being late November. The sky was clear now, but Tucker could see the clouds building to the northwest. Dark and heavy, the storm was coming. Always was. His job was to finish before it arrived. The radio crackled, built-in CB unit modified to pick up emergency frequencies. Multiple agencies on site, unable to establish secure anchor. Recommend evacuation and recovery postponement. Brennan Voss's voice. Detached. Already moving past the rescue phase into the documentation phase. Tucker didn't respond. Didn't need to. He'd be there in 20 minutes. He'd see the situation himself, make his own assessment, trust his own hands. The same hands that had pulled a school bus from the Colorado River in 1991. 8 kids inside. Water up to the windows. Every rescue service said to wait for the dive team. Tucker didn't wait. Hooked the cable to the frame, pulled it out in 12 minutes. All 8 kids went home that night. The same hands that extracted a trailer truck from Loveland Pass in 2007. Blizzard conditions, visibility near zero. The truck had jackknifed and slid sideways, blocking both lanes. 3 other trucks behind it. Families trapped inside. No one else would go up the pass. Tucker went. 4 hours of work in 20 below wind chill. Got the truck upright. Got the pass open. Got everyone home. 51 times he'd done this. 51 times he'd brought someone back from the edge. But it was never enough. It would never be enough. Because there was one person he didn't bring back. One person he should have saved. One person whose death taught Tucker exactly who he needed to be. Ryland. The memory lived in his chest, heavy and permanent, like scar tissue around his heart. He'd been carrying it for 45 years, would carry it until he died. And every time he brought someone home, he felt Ryland's ghost riding in the passenger seat, approving, forgiving, waiting. Tucker pressed the accelerator, just a touch. The autocar rumbled louder. 47 miles per hour now, almost reckless for this old machine. But today required speed. Today required everything. The highway curved following the path of the Colorado River. The water was low this time of year. Rocks exposed along the banks. Everything waiting for winter. Everything preparing for the freeze. Tucker's phone buzzed. He ignored it. Probably Thornton with an update. Or Mac Hollis, the deputy sheriff. Mac was good people. 34 years old. Smart. Capable. Her father had been sheriff before Thornton back in 2001. Tucker pulled him from an overturned cruiser. Broken leg, concussion, but alive. Mac had been 12 years old then. She'd never forgotten. Every time Tucker came to a scene, Mac made sure he had what he needed. Respect went both ways. The highway climbed, elevation increasing. The autocar's engine worked harder, but it never complained, never faltered, just kept pulling. That's what it was built for. To pull when nothing else could, to carry weight when others gave up, to be the last option when all the modern solutions failed. Tucker saw the lights ahead, flashing red and blue, multiple vehicles, a command post set up on the shoulder, 2 crane trucks, 4 tow vehicles, probably 20 people on site, all of them standing around, watching, waiting for someone to make a decision no one wanted to make. Tucker slowed, pulled onto the shoulder 50 yards back from the scene. Didn't want to crowd them, didn't want to create more problems. He set the parking brake, turned off the engine, sat in silence for a moment. This was always the hardest part. Not the work, the arrival. Walking into a situation where people had already tried and failed, where frustration was high and hope was low, where some young engineer with a fancy degree would look at him and see a relic, an old man with an older truck, a symbol of a time when people didn't know any better. Tucker took a breath, opened the door, stepped down onto the gravel. The cold hit him immediately. Temperature was maybe 25 degrees now, dropping fast. He could smell snow coming, that particular scent of moisture and ice, winter announcing its arrival. He pulled on his work gloves, leather, 40 years old, repaired and restitched so many times they were more thread than original material. But they fit his hands perfectly, knew every curve and callus. Some things you don't replace just because they're old. Some things get better with age, more trustworthy, more reliable. Tucker walked toward the command post. His boots crunched on the gravel. Every head turned. Conversation stopped. The modern rescue crews looked at him, then at the autocar behind him. Their expressions said everything. Confusion, skepticism, a few barely concealed smirks, a few. One of the younger guys actually laughed, turned to his buddy and whispered something. They both grinned. Tucker kept walking, didn't rush, didn't slow, just moved with the steady pace of someone who'd been to 1,000 scenes like this. Someone who knew that urgency without control was just panic in disguise. Sheriff Thornton met him halfway. Tucker. Sheriff. They shook hands. Thornton was 62. Been sheriff for 15 years. Good man. Calm under pressure. Respected his people. Respected Tucker. Dalton Mercer, Thornton said. 52. Driving for Continental Freight. Swerved to avoid a deer at 4 in the morning. Went over the edge. Anyone else in the cab? Just him. Injuries. Broken ribs for sure. Possible internal bleeding. Paramedics can't reach him. Cabin's too compressed. Tucker nodded. How long has he been down there? 7.5 hours. Temperature, 23 and dropping. Storm hits in 3 hours, maybe 4. Forecast says blizzard warning. Wind chill could hit 20 below. Tucker looked past Thornton toward the edge of the ravine. Show me. They walked together, past the crane trucks with their booms retracted, past the command vehicle with its computers and monitors, past the clusters of rescue workers who stopped talking as Tucker approached. At the edge, Tucker stopped, looked down. 40 feet, maybe 45. The semi-truck was wedged between 2 rock formations. Cabin pointed down, trailer twisted at an angle that defied physics. The whole thing looked like it could slide at any moment. Dalton was visible through the windshield, slumped against the steering wheel, not moving, but breathing. Tucker could see the fog on the glass. Life still there, still fighting. Behind him, footsteps approached, expensive boots on gravel, the kind that cost $300 and had never seen mud. You must be Cade. Tucker turned. Brennan Voss stood there, tablet under one arm, safety vest perfectly clean, hard hat with not a single scratch. He extended his hand. Professional. Correct. But his eyes told a different story, eyes that had already dismissed what they were seeing. Tucker shook his hand anyway. Tucker Cade, Brennan Voss, lead engineer, Titan Recovery. He gestured at the auto car. That's your equipment? It is. Brennan smiled, polite but condescending. Mr. Cade, with all respect, that truck is what, 70 years old, 76. Right, and you're planning to use it for this rescue? I am. Brennan glanced at his colleagues. One of them was filming on a phone, probably for social media later. Engineers mocking the old guy with the antique. Brennan turned back to Tucker. Sir, I appreciate the historical significance of what you're driving, but this is a complex operation. We've run the calculations 7 times. The angle is 73 degrees. The load is 32,000 pounds unbalanced. The soil composition won't hold anchor points. He held up his tablet, showed Tucker diagrams and numbers. We have state-of-the-art equipment, GPS stabilization, computer-assisted winch control, hydraulic dampening systems, and we can't do it safely. Brennan put the tablet down, looked at Tucker directly. So I'm confused how a vintage truck with no modern systems is supposed to accomplish what we couldn't. Silence. Everyone was watching now, waiting for Tucker's response, waiting to see if the old man would get defensive, get angry, walk away embarrassed. Tucker looked at Brennan, looked at the tablet, looked at the crane trucks and their retracted booms, looked at all the technology that had failed. Then he looked back at Brennan. You know what your problem is, son? Brennan stiffened. I'm sorry. Your problem is you trust your computer more than your hands. That's ridiculous. The computer told you it can't be done, so you stopped trying. You let mathematics make your decision. Mathematics doesn't lie, Mr. Cade. No, Tucker said. But mathematics doesn't feel. It doesn't adapt. It doesn't know what 45 years of pulling trucks teaches you. He pointed at the ravine. Your tablet says 73 degrees, but dirt shifts, wind erodes. Every angle is different minute by minute. You're trying to solve a static problem. This is a living situation. Brennan crossed his arms. So you're saying experience beats science. I'm saying science is a tool. Experience is knowing when to use it and when to trust something else. And what's the something else? Feel. Brennan actually laughed, not loud, but audible. Feel, right. Well, Mr. Cade, I'm sorry, but feel doesn't hold up in court when someone dies. Feel doesn't explain to a widow why we dropped her husband another 40 feet. He gestured at his team. We have protocols, safety standards, engineering principles developed over decades. This isn't the 1950s anymore. We can't just... You're right, Tucker interrupted. Brennan stopped. I'm sorry. You're right, this isn't the 1950s. Tucker stepped closer. In the 1950s, men built things to last, built things to work, didn't need computers because they knew their tools, knew their limits, knew when to push and when to ease. He pointed at the auto car. That truck has pulled 51 people home in 45 years. Never dropped one. Never failed once. Not because it's fancy, because I know it. Every bolt, every cable inch, every sound it makes under stress. Tucker looked at Brennan's tablet. Your computer knows calculations. I know my machine, and I know Dalton Mercer is going home today. Brennan stared at him, uncertain now, the confidence wavering. Mr. Cade, Tucker, I can't authorize this. If something goes wrong, the liability, then don't authorize it, Tucker said simply. I don't need your permission. Sheriff asked me to come. I came. You tried your way. Now let me try mine. He walked past Brennan toward the edge of the ravine, started his own assessment. Different than Brennan's. No tablet, no laser measurements, just his eyes and his hands and 45 years of reading situations. He walked the perimeter, felt the ground with his boots, kicked at loose rocks to see how stable the edge was. Looked for natural anchor points, outcroppings, large boulders, trees with deep roots. Behind him, Brennan was arguing with Thornton. Sheriff, this is insane. That man is going to get someone killed. That man has more rescues than your whole company combined. That doesn't matter if... It's the only thing that matters. Dalton's got maybe 3 hours left. Either we let Tucker try, or we tell Fletcher Mercer her husband died while we argued about protocols. Silence. Then Brennan again. Quieter. If this fails, it's on you. If we don't try, it's on all of us. Tucker finished his circuit, walked back to Thornton. I can get him. You sure? No, but I can try. That was honest. Thornton appreciated honest. What do you need? Clear the area. Everyone back 50 yards except your deputy and one paramedic team on standby. Done. And Sheriff, yeah, tell Brennan to watch. He might learn something. Thornton almost smiled. Almost. I'll tell him. Tucker walked back to the autocar. The crowd parted as he moved. Some still skeptical, some curious now. A few the older ones who'd been doing this work for 20 or 30 years. Those guys nodded. They knew. They understood what was about to happen. Experience recognizing experience. Tucker climbed into the cab, started the engine. That deep rumble filled the air. A sound from another era. A sound that meant reliability. He put it in gear, started rolling forward, toward the edge, toward the impossible, toward the work that had defined his life for 45 years. The work that started with one terrible night in 1979, March 17th, 1979. The rain came down in sheets, not the gentle spring rain that washed away winter. The violent kind, the kind that turned highways into rivers, the kind that killed. Tucker Cade was 23 years old riding a 1972 Harley Sportster. Ryland Cruz rode beside him on a 74 Shovelhead. They were making their way back to Colorado from Austin. 2 weeks on the road, playing pool and dive bars, sleeping under highway overpasses, fixing their bikes in Walmart parking lots, living the life they'd promised each other they'd live. Free, untamed, brothers. The rain had started 2 hours earlier somewhere outside Amarillo. Just a drizzle at first, then heavy, then torrential. Most riders would have pulled over, found a motel, waited it out. But Tucker wanted to get home, had a job starting Monday. And Ryland never disagreed with Tucker. That was the dynamic. Tucker led, Ryland followed. It had been that way since they were 15. They were on Highway 287, empty two-lane road through nowhere, Texas. No lights except their headlamps. No traffic except occasional 18-wheelers throwing up walls of spray. Tucker was riding lead, Ryland 50 feet behind. That was protocol in weather like this. Space between bikes. So if one went down, the other could avoid them. The puddle appeared without warning, 10 feet wide, 3 inches deep. Tucker hit it at 60 miles per hour. His Sportster hydroplaned. Rear wheel lost traction. He felt the slide starting, used his weight to correct it, leaned into the slide, eased off the throttle instead of braking. Let physics and experience guide him. The bike straightened out. He cleared the puddle. Heart pounding but upright. He should have stopped, should have looked back, should have made sure Ryland saw the hazard. But he didn't. He just kept riding, assuming Ryland would follow, assuming his brother could handle what he handled. 3 seconds later, he heard it. The sound every biker knows and fears. Metal sliding on pavement. The crash wasn't loud, not like in movies. Just a scrape. A thud. Then silence except for the rain. Tucker braked hard. Too hard. His bike skidded, but he kept it upright. Stopped. Turned around. 50 yards back, Ryland's headlamp pointed sideways. Into the ditch. Ryland. Tucker kicked his stand down, left his bike running in the middle of the highway, ran back through the rain, his boots splashing in puddles, his heart already knowing something was wrong. Ryland's bike was on its side, wedged against a drainage culvert, the front fork bent, gas leaking onto wet pavement. But the bike didn't matter. Ryland was 15 feet away, face down in the grass, not moving. Ryland. Tucker dropped beside him, rolled him over carefully, remembered first aid from somewhere. Don't move spine injuries. But he couldn't leave his brother face down in the mud. Ryland's eyes were open, blinking against the rain. Tucker. I'm here, brother. I'm here. Blood mixed with rainwater on Ryland's face, a cut on his forehead, road rash down his left arm. But those weren't the problem. The problem was the way Ryland was breathing. Shallow, rapid, and the way his leg bent at the wrong angle. Can't feel my legs. You're okay. You're going to be okay. Tucker pulled off his jacket, put it under Ryland's head, looked around frantically. No cars, no help. Just rain and darkness and miles of nothing. Stay with me, Rye. Stay awake. Cold. I know, brother. Tucker's hands were shaking, not from cold, from fear, from the realization that this was bad, worse than a broken leg, worse than road rash. This was the kind of bad that didn't end well. On an empty highway in the middle of nowhere, he needed to get help, needed to flag down a car. Headlights appeared, coming from the south, a pickup truck moving fast despite the rain. Tucker jumped up, ran into the middle of the highway, waved his arms. The truck slowed, stopped 20 feet away. An older man got out, maybe 50, rancher judging by the clothes. Jesus, son, you okay? My friend, he's hurt bad. We need an ambulance. Nearest hospital is 40 miles. Nearest phone is 10. Can you take him in your truck? The rancher looked at Ryland, looked at Tucker. If he's hurt, like you say, moving him could... Please, he needs help now. The rancher hesitated, then nodded. I just radioed in another accident, 4 miles south, but your friend looks worse. Get him in the bed, gentle as you can. Together they lifted Ryland, Tucker cradling his head, the rancher supporting his legs. Ryland groaned but didn't scream. That was almost worse. Screaming meant feeling. They laid him in the truck bed. Tucker climbed in after. There's a clinic in Pritchett, the rancher said. 20 minutes, best I can do. Go. The truck pulled away. Tucker held Ryland's hand. Stay with me, brother, 20 minutes. Ryland's eyes were closing. Tucker. Yeah. Sorry, should have seen the... That's on me. I should have warned you, should have stopped. Nah, my fault. Shut up, Rye. Save your strength. But Ryland kept talking, words getting quieter. Take care of my mom. You're going to take care of her yourself. And the bike, fix it, ride it. We'll fix it together, good as new. Tucker. Yeah, been good riding with you. Stop talking like that. But Ryland's grip was weakening, his breathing more shallow. Ryland, look at me. Ryland's eyes opened, just barely. Best friend, best brother I ever had. Same. Ryland, same. Don't stop riding. I won't. Promise. Ryland smiled, just a little. Then his eyes closed. His breathing stopped. His hand went limp. Ryland. Tucker started compressions. He'd learned CPR somewhere. Didn't matter where. Just knew the rhythm. 30 compressions, 2 breaths, over and over. The truck bounced on a rough road. Rain poured into the bed. Tucker kept going. Come on, brother, come on! The rancher was shouting something from the cab. Tucker couldn't hear it. Didn't matter. Only thing that mattered was bringing Ryland back. The clinic appeared. Small building, 2 lights on. The truck skidded to a stop. A doctor came running out. Young guy, maybe 30. What happened? Motorcycle accident. He's not breathing. The doctor checked for a pulse, checked pupils. His face said everything. I'm sorry, he's gone. No, he's not. Keep trying. Son, keep trying. But the doctor just shook his head, put a hand on Tucker's shoulder. There's nothing more we can do. I'm sorry. Tucker looked down at Ryland, his best friend, his brother, the person who'd been riding beside him for 6 years. Gone. Because of a puddle. Because Tucker didn't stop. Because Tucker didn't warn him. Because Tucker led and Ryland followed. And that's how it always was. Tucker sat in the rain, holding Ryland's hand, not crying, not yet, just sitting, letting reality sink in, letting the weight settle into his chest where it would live forever. The rancher stood nearby. Son, there was nothing you could do. But that was wrong. There was something he could have done. He could have stopped, could have looked back, could have warned Ryland about the puddle, could have taken the lead more carefully, could have made different choices. 1,000 tiny decisions that added up to this moment. Tucker Cade, 23 years old, holding his dead best friend in a pickup truck in the rain. That night changed him, broke something inside him, rebuilt it into something different, something harder, something focused. By the time the sun rose, Tucker knew what he had to do. He couldn't bring Ryland back, but he could make sure Ryland's death meant something. He could make sure no one else died because someone didn't stop, because someone didn't look back, because someone didn't have the skills to save them. He sold his Harley 2 weeks later, used the money for a down payment on a used wrecker truck. 1965 Ford F600. Learned the business from an old-timer in Denver. Spent 3 years working every call, learning how to read accidents, learning where to hook cables, learning when to pull fast and when to go slow, learning that every decision mattered, every second counted, every person was someone's Ryland. In 1982, he bought the auto car, 1948 Model U. The previous owner was retiring, practically gave it away. Tucker rebuilt it from the ground up. New engine mounts, rewired electrical, recentered the boom, installed the cable he still used today, made it perfect, made it reliable, made it worthy of the work. And for 45 years, he kept his promise to Ryland. He didn't stop riding, he just rode something different, something that brought people home. 51 people, 51 times he'd been fast enough, skilled enough, careful enough. 51 times he'd done what he couldn't do for Ryland. But it never felt like enough, never would, because the one person who should have gone home didn't. Tucker positioned the autocar at the edge of the ravine, set the parking brake with extra force. The truck needed to be absolutely stable. Any movement during the pull would transfer to the cable, would destabilize everything. He climbed out, walked to where he could see both Deputy Mac Hollis and the ravine. This was the critical moment, the moment when mathematics ended and Phil began. Mac stood by the winch controls, waiting, watching Tucker. He raised one finger. She engaged the winch. Slow speed. The drum began to turn, cable taking up slack. The sound was steady, rhythmic, metal on metal. The cable lifted off the ground, started to straighten, going taut. Tucker watched, not the cable, the ground, looking for any sign of movement, any indication that his anchor points were failing. The cable went tight, tension building. The autocar's frame creaked. Normal, expected. The truck down in the ravine shifted. Just an inch. Rocks tumbled. Everyone on the edge tensed. Tucker didn't move, just watched, calculating. The truck settled. Stable. He kept his finger up. Mac maintained speed. The cable was singing now, that particular high-pitched hum that steel makes under load. Tucker knew that sound, knew every note of it. Right now it was at 8,000 pounds, maybe 9, still safe, still controlled. The truck moved again, 2 inches this time, sliding sideways across the loose shale, exactly as Tucker planned. 4 inches, 6. The back end was coming around, repositioning, 10 inches, a foot. The cable's tone changed, went higher. 11,000 pounds now, getting close to the limit for a single line pull, but still safe. Tucker trusted the cable, trusted his maintenance, trusted 45 years of knowing exactly what this system could handle. 2 feet, 3 feet. Dalton was moving sideways, away from the unstable section, toward the flatter ground. 5 feet. The truck's rear tire caught on something. A rock, a root. Didn't matter. The movement stopped. Cable tension spiked. The sound went sharp. 12,000 pounds. 13. Tucker made a fist. Max stopped the winch immediately. Silence except for the wind. Everyone holding their breath. Tucker studied the situation. The tire was wedged. Pulling harder would either free it or flip the truck. 50-50 odds, not good enough. He signaled Mac to reverse. She backed the winch off. Cable went slack. The truck settled back 6 inches. Tucker climbed down into the ravine again. His legs were getting tired. He ignored it. At the truck, he examined the tire, wedged against a boulder about 2 feet across. He couldn't move the boulder, but he could move the truck slightly. He grabbed the bumper, planted his feet, pulled. 68 years old. But years of physical work had left him strong. Not gym strong, work strong. The truck rocked, just a fraction. He pushed again, harder. The tire rolled off the boulder, back into free space. "Okay," he called up, "try again." Mac engaged the winch, slow again. The cable tightened. The truck moved, this time smoothly. 8 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet. Tucker watched the whole thing, making sure nothing else caught, making sure the trajectory was right. At 18 feet, he made a fist. "Stop." Mac stopped. The truck was positioned on the flatter section, exactly where Tucker wanted it. First pull complete. He climbed back up, slower this time. His chest was tight, heart working too hard. At the top, Mac saw his face. "You okay?" "I'm fine." "You don't look fine." "I said I'm fine." But he sat down on the autocar's running board, just for a minute, just to catch his breath. Brennan walked over. "That was impressive." Tucker didn't respond. "I mean it. I didn't think it would work." "It's not done yet." "I know, but still." Brennan paused. "Can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "Why do you do this? At your age, you could retire. Let younger guys take over." Tucker looked at him. "You really want to know?" "Yes." "Because I owe a debt." "To who?" "To everyone. To no one. To a man who died 45 years ago because I didn't stop." Brennan frowned. "I don't understand." "You don't need to." Tucker stood up. His legs were steadier now, his breathing more controlled. But there was pain in his chest. Dull pulse. He ignored it. "Let's set up for the second pull." The temperature had dropped 10 degrees in 30 minutes. Now it was hovering around 15. The wind picked up, coming from the northwest, bringing the smell of snow. Mac checked her phone. Weather Service updated the warning. Storm hits in 90 minutes now. Tucker looked at the sky. Dark clouds building, moving fast. "Then we've got 90 minutes. He repositioned the autocar, drove it 30 feet to a new location. Better angle for the vertical pull. The second attachment would be more complex. He needed to lift and pull simultaneously. Needed the cable at a 47-degree angle. Too steep and the truck would flip backward. Too shallow and it wouldn't clear the edge. 47 degrees. Exactly. No room for error. He grabbed the secondary cable. Thinner than the main line, 1 inch instead of 1.5, but still rated for 10,000 pounds. This one would act as a stabilizer, prevent the truck from rotating during the pull. He started back down into the ravine. Third time today, each time harder than the last. Mac called after him. "Tucker let me do it. You're exhausted." "I know this cable. I know the attachment points. Has to be me." He didn't wait for her response, just kept descending, step by step. Slower now, much slower. At the truck, he had to rest, just for a moment, leaned against the twisted trailer. The metal was cold against his back. His chest hurt more now, the pain radiating down his left arm. He knew what that meant, had known since the first pull. But there was no time to deal with it. Dalton needed him. He pushed off the trailer, got to work, threaded the secondary cable through the front axle. Different attachment point than the main line. This would pull from the front, while the main line pulled from the rear. Balance forces, mathematics and experience working together. He secured it with another shackle, tested the connection. Solid. Started climbing. Halfway up, his vision blurred. Just for a second. The world tilted. He grabbed a rock outcropping, held on, waited for his vision to clear. It did. Slowly. He kept climbing. At the top, Mac was waiting. "Jesus, Tucker, you're white as paper." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. We need to get Dalton up. That's what we need." Mac looked like she wanted to argue. Didn't. "What's next?" The second cable runs to that boulder. He pointed. We'll use it as a pulley point. Changes the angle without moving the autocar. I'll set it up. No, I need you at the controls. Then who? I'll do it. But when Tucker tried to walk toward the boulder, his legs didn't respond right. Weak, shaky. He stumbled, caught himself. Mac was beside him in an instant. That's it, you're done. No, Brennan. The engineer came running. What's wrong? Tucker needs medical attention. Now. I'm fine, Tucker insisted, but his voice was weak. Even he could hear it. Brennan looked at him, really looked, saw what Mac saw. You're having a heart attack. I'm having a bad day. There's a difference. Mr. Cade, Dalton's been down there 8 hours. Storm hits in 85 minutes. We don't have time for this. Brennan stared at him. If you die trying to save him, he still dies. Tucker grabbed Brennan's arm, squeezed hard. Then don't let me die. Finish what I started. I don't know how. I'll tell you. Brennan looked at Mac. She nodded. A paramedic arrived, started checking Tucker's vitals. Blood pressure high, pulse irregular, all the signs. Sir, you need to get to a hospital. After. Sir. The paramedic looked at Mac. She nodded. Let him work, but stay close. They moved Tucker to the ambulance, sat him on the back bumper, put oxygen on him. He waved it away. Can't talk through that thing. Mr. Cade, I need to give instructions. They compromised. Oxygen when he wasn't talking. Off when he was. Brennan stood in front of him, tablet forgotten. All his modern tools suddenly useless. Tell me what to do. Tucker pointed at the boulder. Take the secondary cable. Run it through that gap in the rock. Creates a pulley point. Then what? Then attach it to the front of the truck. I already set the shackle point. You want me to go down there unless you can do it from up here. Brennan looked at the ravine, looked at his expensive boots, looked at his clean safety vest. Then he took off the vest, handed his tablet to a colleague, started down. Tucker watched. Brennan moved carefully. Too carefully. Faster, Tucker called. Slower is more dangerous. Commit to each step. Brennan adjusted, started moving with more confidence, less hesitation. He reached the bottom, grabbed the cable, started threading it through the boulder gap. It's stuck. Won't fit, he called up. Yes, it will. Twist it counterclockwise. Brennan twisted. The cable slid through. Now to the truck. Brennan moved to the front of the semi, found the shackle point Tucker had mentioned, stared at it. I don't know how to attach it. Loop through the shackle, back through itself, like tying a shoe but stronger. Brennan tried. His hands were shaking, not from cold, from adrenaline, from fear, from the realization that he was doing something he'd never trained for, something his computer couldn't help with. I can't. Yes, you can, Tucker said. Trust your hands. They're smarter than you think. Brennan tried again, this time slower, more deliberate. The loop went through, back around. He pulled it tight. Tucker squinted, vision still blurry, but he could see enough. Good. Now climb up. Brennan climbed, faster this time, more confident. At the top, he was breathing hard. What now? Now we pull both cables at once. Main line does the lifting. Secondary line keeps it stable. How do we control both? Mac handles the main winch. You handle the secondary by hand. By hand, there's a hand crank on the passenger side. You turn it, keeps tension on the secondary line. How fast? Match Mac's speed, watch the truck. If it starts to rotate, adjust your speed. Brennan looked terrified. I can't do this. You already did the hard part. You went down there. Rest is just paying attention. But if I mess up, then I'll tell you to fix it. That's why I'm here. Tucker put the oxygen mask back on, took 3 deep breaths. The pain in his chest was constant now, like a weight sitting on his sternum. But he pushed through it, had to. Mac was at the main winch, Brennan at the hand crank, everyone in position. On my signal, Tucker said. He watched the truck, watched the cables, watched the sky. The first snowflakes were starting to fall, big flakes. the kind that came before the serious snow. Now, Mac engaged the winch. Brennan started cranking. The main cable tightened. The secondary cable went taut. The truck began to move, lifting, pulling, both directions at once. The main cable's tone went high. 14,000 pounds, 15, 16, getting close to maximum. "Max, slow down," Tucker called. She reduced speed. The tension eased slightly. The truck kept moving. 3 feet off the bottom of the ravine now. 5 feet. The secondary cable was doing its job, keeping the front end from dropping, keeping everything balanced. Brennan was cranking steadily, his face red with effort, but keeping pace with the winch. 7 feet. 10. Then the main cable made a sound. Not the normal singing. A sharp crack. One of the strands had parted. Not broken, not yet, but damaged. Tucker saw it. "Stop!" Both Mac and Brennan froze. The truck hung suspended, 15 feet up, 25 feet from the top edge. "What's wrong?" Mac asked. "Cable's damaged, strand failure." "Can it hold?" "For a while, maybe." "Maybe isn't good enough." "It's all we have." Tucker's mind raced, calculating. The cable was rated for 20,000 pounds. One strand gone meant it was down to maybe 18,000. Current load was 16,000. 2,000-pound buffer. Not much, but enough if they were careful. "We continue, but slower, half speed." "Tucker, half speed Mac, we can do this." She nodded, engaged the winch, half speed. The cable resumed its work, but the damaged section was visible now. One strand curled away from the main body. Tucker watched it. Every inch it moved was 1 inch closer to complete failure. 12 feet up. 14. The sound changed again. Another strand starting to fray. "Almost there," Tucker said, more to himself than anyone else. 16 feet, 18. The truck's rear wheels were level with the edge now. "Stop the winch. Brennan, keep cranking. Pull it forward." Max stopped. Brennan cranked harder. The truck shifted, moving toward the edge, toward safety. The front bumper cleared, then the cabin, then the whole front end. Now the winch. Pull the back end up. Mac engaged. The rear wheels lifted, came over the edge. The whole truck was on flat ground now. Safe ground. "Stop everything." They stopped. The truck sat there, suspended by cables, but on level terrain. Success. The crowd erupted, cheering, clapping. Paramedics ran to the truck, started working on Dalton, extracting him carefully. He was conscious, weak, but alive. They got him on a stretcher, started an IV oxygen mask on. He was going to make it. Tucker watched from the ambulance, still sitting on the bumper, the oxygen mask back on his face. His chest hurt worse than ever. But Dalton was safe. That's what mattered. Brennan walked over. His clothes were filthy. His hands were bleeding. Blisters from the crank. But he was smiling. "We did it." Tucker nodded. Couldn't speak through the mask. "I'm sorry," Brennan said, "for what I said earlier about experience and gut feeling. I was wrong." Tucker pulled the mask down. "You weren't wrong about the math. You were wrong about thinking math was enough. What's the difference? Math tells you what should happen. Experience tells you what will happen. You need both." Brennan sat down beside him. "Can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "That cable. You knew it was damaged. You knew it might break. Why did you keep going?" "Because stopping meant Dalton died for certain. Continuing meant he had a chance. But you could have died too." "I'm 68 years old. I've lived my life. Dalton's 52. He's got years left. Easy choice." "That's not an easy choice." Tucker looked at him. "Yes, it is. When you owe a debt, every choice is easy. You just do what needs doing." "What debt?" "Long story." The paramedic interrupted. "Mr. Cade, we need to get you to the hospital now. Is Dalton stable?" "Yes, but..." "Then I can wait." Sir, you're having a cardiac event. You need immediate treatment. Tucker looked at Dalton being loaded into an ambulance, looked at the auto car, cables still deployed, looked at the team of people who'd worked together to make this happen. Then he looked at Mac. Get my truck back to the garage. Of course. And Mac, yeah, you did good today. She smiled, tears in her eyes. So did you, Tucker. The paramedics loaded him into the ambulance, laid him down, oxygen mask back on, IV in his arm, heart monitor beeping irregularly, but alive, still alive. As they pulled away, lights flashing, Tucker looked out the back window, saw the auto car sitting there, faithful as always, reliable as always, 45 years together, 51 rescues, 51 people brought home. The debt wasn't paid, might never be paid. But today it was a little lighter. Ryland would be proud. Tucker closed his eyes, let the exhaustion take him, and whispered one more time, still here, brother, still trying. 3 days later, Glenwood Springs Hospital Room 312. Tucker woke to fluorescent lights and the smell of antiseptic. His chest was sore, not the heart attack pain, different, muscle soreness from the exertion, from pushing his body past its limits. A monitor beeped beside him. Steady rhythm now, regular. He'd been stabilized. Minor heart attack, the doctor said. Stress-induced combined with age and exhaustion, but he'd survive. Needed rest, needed to slow down, needed to retire, one doctor suggested. Tucker had told him where to put that suggestion. A knock on the door. Come in. Mac entered holding a folder. Hey, how you feeling? Like I got kicked by a horse. That's what saving lives looks like, I guess. She sat in the chair beside his bed. Dalton's doing well. Broken ribs, internal bruising, but he'll recover fully. Good. His wife came by yesterday. Wanted to thank you. I told her you were asleep. Appreciate that. They sat in comfortable silence. Then Mac handed him the folder. What's this? Something I found. Something you should see. Tucker opened it. Inside were old papers, photocopies of accident reports, newspaper clippings, all from 1979. His hands started shaking. Mac just read it. The first document was a police report. Date March 17, 1979. Highway 287 north of Pritchett, Colorado. Single vehicle motorcycle accident. Victim Ryland Cruz, age 24. Deceased at scene. Tucker's throat tightened. He knew this report. Had a copy somewhere in his garage. Never looked at it. Couldn't bear to. But there was more. Another report clipped behind it. March 17, 1979. Same location. Same highway. Multi-vehicle collision. Approximately 4 miles south. One vehicle overturned. Victim Warren Voss, age 21. Severe injuries. Transported to Pritchett Clinic. Arrived 11:47 p.m. Treated by Dr. Hamilton. Survived. Tucker's hands were shaking harder now. What is this? Mac leaned forward. I started digging after the rescue. Wanted to know more about you. About your history. You had no right, maybe not, but I found something. She pointed at the second report. Warren Voss, 21 years old. Car accident on the same highway. Same night Ryland died. I don't understand. The rancher who gave you and Ryland a ride, his statement says you flagged him down at 11:20 p.m. She pulled out another document. Warren Voss's accident was called in at 11:05 p.m. by the same rancher. Radio log shows it. Tucker frowned. That doesn't make sense. The rancher came from the south. He picked us up, took us to the clinic. He didn't come from the south, Tucker. He came from the north. He'd already passed you, already been to Warren's accident, already radioed it in. Then why did he stop for us? Because he saw you in the middle of the highway, saw Ryland on the ground, and he made a choice. Mac pulled out another document, an interview with the rancher conducted in 1979 by the state police. Tucker read it, his vision blurring. Not from the heart attack, from tears. Interviewer. Why didn't you take Mr. Voss to the clinic first? Rancher, the other boy was worse. The one on the motorcycle wasn't breathing right. The kid in the car was conscious, talking. I figured he could wait 10 more minutes. Interviewer. So you passed him, left him at the scene. Rancher, I radioed it in, made sure help was coming. But yeah, I left him because the other boy was dying. Tucker couldn't breathe. I didn't know. I never knew there was another accident. You were in shock, grieving. You never saw the other reports. Mac put her hand on Tucker's. Tucker. Warren Voss lived because the rancher came back for him. After dropping you at the clinic, he survived his injuries, went on to graduate college, became an engineer. She paused. He worked for Atlas Recovery Solutions, one of the big rescue companies. He retired in 2015, died of cancer later that year. Mac pulled out another document, a birth certificate. Name Brennan James Voss, Father Warren Voss. Date August 15th, 1988. Tucker's heart, already weak, felt like it stopped. No. Yes. Brennan. The rancher saved Ryland long enough to get him to the clinic, but Ryland didn't make it. Then the rancher went back for Warren. Warren lived. Mac's voice was gentle. Tucker, that night, the night you thought you failed Ryland, a choice was made. Ryland or Warren. Ryland died anyway, but Warren lived. I can't. If the rancher had gone to Warren first, Ryland would have died alone on the highway. You gotta be with him. Gotta hold him. That was the rancher's gift to you. Tears streaming down Tucker's face now. And Warren lived. Had a son. That son became the engineer you worked with 3 days ago. Another knock on the door. Brennan Voss entered. He looked different. No tablet, no safety vest, just jeans and a flannel shirt. He saw the papers in Tucker's hands, saw Max sitting there. She told you. Tucker couldn't speak. Brennan sat in the other chair. I didn't know until yesterday. Mac called me, told me to look up my father's accident report. I'd never read it, never thought to. He leaned forward. My dad talked about that night sometimes. Said a rancher saved his life. Said he was lucky. But I never connected it to, he gestured at Tucker, to the same night your friend died. Silence, heavy and profound. My dad lived 56 years after that accident, Brennan said. He raised me, taught me to love engineering, loved his work, had a good life. His voice broke. He lived because someone made a choice. The rancher chose your friend, then went back for my dad. Brennan wiped his eyes. If he'd chosen differently, if he'd gone to my dad first, your friend still would have died, but alone, and you would have carried even more guilt. I carried it anyway. I know, but you turned it into something. 51 people, Tucker. 51 families who got their person back. Brennan stood, walked to the window. I've been thinking about what you said, about debt, about owing something. He turned back. I owe you my existence. My father lived because of choices made that night. Choices that took your friend but gave me my dad. You don't owe me anything. Then let me give you something anyway. He pulled an envelope from his pocket, handed it to Tucker. Inside was a check made out for $25,000. What is this payment for a lesson? I don't want your money. It's not for the rescue. It's for teaching me something I couldn't learn at Stanford. Brennan sat back down. You taught me that experience matters. That feel isn't unscientific. It's a different kind of science. That knowing your tools, really knowing them, is more valuable than having the newest ones. He pointed at the check. Use it to maintain your truck, to keep doing what you do, because the world needs people like you. Tucker looked at the check. $25,000. More than he'd make in a year. He tried to hand it back. I can't accept this. Then consider it payment of a different debt. My father never got to thank the people who saved him. Let me do it for him. Tucker's hand was shaking, the check trembling. Your father, he had a good life. The best, he loved his work, loved our family, saw me graduate Stanford, met his grandkids. Brennan smiled. He used to say he was living on borrowed time, that every day after that night was a gift, and he tried to make each day count. That's good. It's more than good. Brennan stood. I'm going back to work tomorrow, but I'm making changes, teaching my team what you taught me. He extended his hand. Tucker took it. Thank you, Tucker, for everything. I didn't do anything. You did everything. Brennan left. Max stood to follow, paused at the door. Tucker. Yeah. That debt you've been carrying, maybe it's time to put it down. I can't. Why not? Because if I let go of it, then what was Ryland's death for? Mac walked back, sat on the edge of his bed. Ryland's death wasn't for anything. Death never is. But what you've done with it, that's for something. 51 people. 51 reasons. And now you know one of them led to Brennan. Led to yesterday. Led to Dalton going home. She squeezed his hand. That's not a debt, Tucker. That's a legacy. She left him alone with his thoughts. Tucker lay in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Ryland, about Warren Voss, about Brennan, about chains of cause and effect that stretched across decades, about how one terrible night led to 51 lives saved, about debt and legacy and the difference between the two. For 45 years, he'd carried Ryland's death like a stone in his chest, heavy, crushing, permanent. But maybe Mac was right. Maybe it wasn't a stone. Maybe it was a seed. And from that seed had grown something he never expected. Not just 51 rescues. Purpose, meaning, a life lived in service. That didn't erase the pain, didn't bring Ryland back. But maybe, just maybe, it was enough. Tucker stayed in the hospital for 5 more days. The doctors wanted to be cautious. His heart had stabilized. But at 68, after decades of physical labor, his body needed time. Time to heal, time to rest. Time he'd never given himself before. Mac visited every day, brought him updates on the autocar. She'd driven it back to his garage, parked it in its usual spot, checked the fluids, covered it with the tarp he always used. It's waiting for you, she said on day 3. Good. When you coming home? Soon as they let me. But there was something different in his voice. Mac noticed. You okay? Just thinking. About what? About what happens next. She sat in the visitor's chair, the same one she'd occupied for hours over the past days. What do you mean, I'm 68, Mac? Had a heart attack pulling a truck. Maybe it's time to consider. Don't say retirement. Why not? Because you die within a month. Not from your heart, from boredom, from purposelessness. Tucker smiled, small but genuine. You sound like Nadine. Your wife was a smart woman. She was. He looked out the window, at the mountains in the distance, snow-capped and eternal. She left me a letter, he said quietly. After she died, 2018, I found it in her desk drawer a week later, sealed envelope with my name. What did it say? I don't know. Never opened it. Max stared. You've had a letter from your wife for 6 years and never read it. Couldn't. Every time I tried, I just couldn't. Why? Tucker was quiet for a long time. Because as long as I don't read it, she's not really gone. There's still something of her left. One more thing she wanted to tell me. One more conversation we haven't had. Mac's eyes filled with tears. Tucker. I know, it's foolish. It's not foolish. It's grief. She reached into her bag, pulled out a set of keys. I went to your garage yesterday to check on the autocar. Found these on your workbench. His house keys. I didn't go in, Max said. That's your space, but maybe now's the time. Time for what? To read what she wrote. Tucker took the keys, felt their weight in his palm. 6 years of avoiding that letter. 6 years of carrying Nadine's death the same way he'd carried Ryland's. As weight, as debt, as something he owed penance for. Will you come with me? He asked. Mac smiled. Of course. They discharged Tucker on the sixth day, with restrictions, no heavy lifting for 6 weeks, no strenuous activity for 3 months, regular cardiac monitoring, a list of medications as long as his arm, and a stern warning from Dr. Peterson. Mr. Cade, your heart is not what it was. Another incident like this could be fatal. You need to take this seriously. I understand, Doc. Do you? Because your file shows you've ignored medical advice before. Tucker didn't respond. Dr. Peterson sighed. At least promise me you'll rest. Let your body heal. I promise. But they both knew what that promise was worth. Mac drove him home. His house was on the same property as the garage. Small ranch-style building, 2 bedrooms, one for him and Nadine, one that was supposed to be for a child that never came. After Ryland died, after Tucker gave up the biker life he and Nadine had tried to build a family, tried to fill the void. But it never happened. Medical reasons, the doctor said. Probably stress-related. Probably trauma from the accident. The body protecting itself. They'd made peace with it. Eventually, decided that their life together was enough. And it had been. For 39 years it had been enough. Until cancer took her in 2018. Lung cancer, never smoked a day in her life. Just bad luck, bad genetics, bad timing. She fought for 18 months. Tucker was with her every day, held her hand through chemo, drove her to appointments, cooked meals she couldn't eat, watched her fade. The night she died, she'd squeezed his hand, looked at him with eyes that were still bright despite everything. You're going to be okay, she said. I'm not worried about me. I am. Promise me you won't stop living. Nadine, promise me. Promise me you'll find joy again. Not just work. Joy. He'd promised. Lied, really. Because without her, joy seemed impossible. Mac pulled into the driveway. The garage sat to the right. Large metal building. The autocar visible through the open bay door. The house was to the left. Smaller. Quieter. Dark. Tucker hadn't been home in a week. Longest he'd been away in years. You want me to come in? Mac asked. No, I need to do this alone. You sure? Yeah. But he sat in the car for another minute, building courage. Finally, he opened the door, stepped out. The cold air hit him. Different than hospital air, real mountain air, home air. He walked to the front door, put the key in the lock, turned it. The house smelled stale. He flipped on the lights. Everything was exactly as he'd left it. Kitchen clean, living room tidy, photos on the walls. Him and Nadine through the years. Their wedding in 1979. Her in a simple white dress. Him in a suit that didn't fit quite right. Both of them young and hopeful. Photos from the 80s and 90s. Trips they'd taken. Friends they'd made. A life built together. And on the mantle, one photo larger than the rest. Nadine at 65, 3 years before she died, smiling at the camera, her eyes full of light. Tucker stood in front of it. Hey, Nadine, I'm home. The house didn't answer, never did. He walked to the bedroom, their bedroom. He'd kept it exactly as she'd left it, her side of the closet still full of clothes, her books on the nightstand, her reading glasses folded on top. He opened the top drawer of her dresser. The letter was there, where it had been for 6 years. White envelope, his name in her handwriting. Tucker, just his name, nothing else. He picked it up, felt the weight of it. One sheet of paper, maybe 2. Her final words to him. The conversation he'd been avoiding. He sat on the edge of the bed, held the envelope in both hands. Okay, Nadine, I'm ready. He opened it. Inside was a single sheet. Her handwriting, careful and precise, the way she did everything. He began to read. My dearest Tucker, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And knowing you, you've probably waited far too long to open this, you stubborn man. I'm writing this while you're at the grocery store. I've known for 2 weeks that this is terminal. The doctors told me yesterday. 6 months, maybe less. I haven't told you yet because I needed time to find the words. But this letter isn't about my death. It's about your life. Tucker, I've watched you carry guilt for 39 years. Guilt about Ryland. Guilt about the accident. Guilt about choices you made when you were 23 years old and doing the best you could. That guilt shaped you into the man who saved 51 people. The man who never gave up. The man who showed up when everyone else quit. But it also trapped you. You've been so busy paying a debt that you forgot to live, to find joy, to forgive yourself for being human. I forgave you decades ago for the accident, for everything. Not because you needed forgiveness. You were never at fault. But because I knew you needed to hear it. But you never believed me, did you? So let me tell you something you don't know. Something I should have told you years ago but couldn't find the courage. The reason we couldn't have children wasn't medical complications from stress. That was a lie I told you to protect you from more guilt. The truth is I had endometriosis, diagnosed when I was 19. Before we met, the doctor said pregnancy would be difficult, maybe impossible. I knew this when we married. I never told you because I didn't want you to think you were choosing a broken woman. And after Ryland died, after you spiraled into guilt and self-blame, I used your trauma as an excuse. Let you believe it was stress-related because it was easier than admitting I'd been keeping secrets. I'm sorry for that. But Tucker, here's what I need you to understand. Our inability to have children had nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with 1979. Nothing to do with any choice you made. It was biology. Random and unfair. Just like Ryland's death. Just like my cancer. Sometimes terrible things happen and nobody's at fault. You spent 40 years trying to make sense of randomness, trying to assign meaning to chaos, trying to balance scales that were never unbalanced to begin with. 51 rescues don't erase Ryland's death. They never could, but they also don't have to. Those 51 people aren't payments on a debt. They're proof that you chose to make something good from something terrible. That's not penance, my love. That's grace. So here's what I want you to do after I'm gone. First, forgive yourself. Really forgive yourself. Not the surface acceptance you've been faking for decades. Real deep bone-level forgiveness. Second, find joy again. Not work that feels like duty, actual joy. Laughter, friendship, maybe even love if you're lucky enough to find it twice. Third, know that I loved you completely. Your stubbornness, your dedication, your hands that fixed everything except your own heart. I loved all of it. And finally, know that you made my life beautiful. Every single day. Even the hard ones. Especially the hard ones. You gave me 39 years of being loved by the best man I ever knew. That's not a debt you owe. That's a gift you gave. Thank you for it. Thank you for everything. Now go live, Tucker. Really live. I'll be waiting when you're done. But don't rush. There's still work for you to do. Still people who need you. Still miles left on that old truck of yours. And when you finally do come home to me, I want to hear stories about rescues, about adventures, about the life you lived after I was gone. Make them good stories, my love. Forever yours, Nadine. Tucker read it twice, then a third time. 39 years. She'd kept that secret for 39 years. To protect him. To shield him from more guilt. And in doing so, she'd let him believe his trauma had stolen their chance at children. Let him carry that weight too. He didn't know whether to be grateful or angry. Settled on something in between. Love. Complicated and messy and human. The way love always was. He folded the letter carefully, put it back in the envelope, held it against his chest. I hear you, Nadine. I hear you. For the first time in 6 years, he felt her presence lift. Not disappear. Never that. But lighten. Like she'd been waiting for him to read those words. Waiting for him to finally let go. He stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the garage, at the auto car sitting in the bay. 45 years of partnership. 51 rescues. And now maybe a different kind of future. Not retirement. Mac was right about that. But something else. Something he couldn't quite name yet. He pulled out his phone, dialed. Brennan answered on the second ring. Tucker, you okay? Yeah, you busy? Well, never too busy for you. What's up? That offer you made about teaching your team. You still want that? Absolutely. Good, because I've got some conditions. February 2025. Titan Recovery Headquarters, Denver, Colorado. Tucker walked into the conference room. First time he'd been in a corporate office in 40 years. It felt wrong, too clean, too bright, too far removed from the dirt and oil and reality of actual work. Brennan was waiting, along with 5 other people, engineers, operations managers, the people who made decisions. Tucker. Brennan stood. Thanks for coming. You said you wanted to learn. I'm here to teach. They shook hands. Brennan gestured to the table. Please sit. Can I get you anything, coffee, water? I'm fine. Tucker sat. Everyone else followed. There was a moment of uncertain silence. These corporate types didn't know how to talk to him, didn't know where he fit in their world. Brennan cleared his throat. I've told my team about the I-70 rescue, about what you did, what you taught me, and they want to learn. We all do. A woman at the end of the table spoke up. Patricia Hendress, according to her nameplate, VP of Operations. Mr. Cade, we've analyzed the rescue data. Your approach was unconventional but effective. We'd like to incorporate some of your methodology into our training protocols. Tucker looked at her. My methodology? Yes, the decision-making process, the risk assessment, you can't systematize experience. Patricia paused. I'm sorry. You want to turn what I did into a checklist, into steps your people can follow. But it doesn't work that way. Then how does it work? Tucker leaned forward. You learn by doing, by failing, by trying again, by spending years making mistakes until your hands know things your brain doesn't. He gestured at the table. All of you have degrees, training, certifications. That's good. That's the foundation. But it's not the house. Then what is the house? Brennan asked. Time, repetition, calluses on your hands and scars on your knuckles. Nights when you pull someone out and nights when you almost don't. That's the house. Patricia exchanged glances with her colleagues. Mr. Cade, with respect, we operate at scale. We handle hundreds of recoveries a year. We can't send our people out to develop intuition over decades. We need frameworks, processes. Then you'll keep failing the hard cases. Silence. Patricia's face tightened. Our success rate is 93%. What about the other 7? Those are edge cases, situations where the risk outweighs. Dalton Mercer was an edge case. Your team gave up on him, called him unrecoverable. The calculations were right and wrong at the same time. Right about the risk, wrong about the possibility. Tucker stood. I came here because Brennan asked, because I thought maybe there was something worth teaching. But you don't want to learn, you want to extract. Take what I know and turn it into corporate training materials. Brennan stood too. Tucker, wait. You can't package experience, son. Can't sell it. Can't shortcut it. Either your people commit to years of real work or they don't. There's no middle ground. Tucker headed for the door. Mr. Cade. Patricia's voice was firm. He stopped, turned. What would you do if you were in my position? How would you train people to be like you? Tucker considered. I wouldn't. Excuse me. You can't train people to be like me. That's ego talking. But you could train them to be better versions of themselves. How me apprenticeship, one-on-one. Your engineers spend 6 months working with someone like me. Not in a classroom. In the field. Getting dirty. Making mistakes. Learning what works when the computers are wrong. Patricia frowned. That's not scalable. No, but it's effective. We have 200 field operators. We can't apprentice all of them. So start with 10, the best 10. The ones who actually want to learn, not just collect a paycheck. Those 10 spend 6 months with experienced operators. Learn the old ways alongside the new ways. Then they come back and teach 10 more. And those 10 teach 10 more. He looked around the room. Takes years, maybe a decade. But at the end, you've got people who know how to think and how to feel. People who can solve problems that aren't in the manual. Patricia was quiet, thinking. Where would we find these experienced operators? Most of them are retired or dead. Some are still around. I know 6 or 7 in Colorado alone. Probably 20 more scattered across the country. Men and women who've been doing this work for 30, 40 years. Brennan spoke up. What if we started smaller? What if we brought in 2 or 3 operators as consultants, had them work with our teams on complex recoveries? Tucker nodded. That could work. Patricia made a note. And compensation these consultants would need to be paid. Pay them what they're worth, not what you think they're worth, what they actually bring to the table, which is the difference between a 7% failure rate and 0. Patricia smiled, small but genuine. You drive a hard bargain, Mr. Cade. I don't bargain. I tell you what's needed. You decide if it's worth it. She stood, extended her hand. Let's try a pilot program, 3 months. You and 2 other operators work with our teams. We'll evaluate effectiveness at the end. Tucker shook her hand. One condition. What's that? I picked the other 2 operators. No HR screening, no background checks. I vouch for them. That's enough. Patricia hesitated. Our insurance, either you trust my judgment or you're wasting my time. She glanced at Brennan. He nodded. Fine, Patricia said. You pick the operators. 3-month pilot. We start next month. We start next week. Next week, that's... Dalton Mercer almost died because your team didn't know what to do. How many other Daltons are out there waiting for someone to give up on them? Patricia was quiet. Next week, she agreed. Tucker made 2 calls that night. The first was to Luther Garrett, 64 years old, ran a recovery service in Wyoming, specialized in mountain terrain, 38 years of experience. Luther, Tucker Cade. Tucker, thought you were dead. Not yet. You sound terrible, though. Had a heart episode. I'm fine now. Sure you are. Why are you calling? Tucker explained the program. 3 months working with Titan teams, sharing knowledge, building skills. Why me? Luther asked. Because you're the best mountain operator I know, and because you give a damn about doing it right. Luther was quiet. I'm blushing. I'm serious, Luther. I know you are. That's why I'm saying yes. Good. Start next week. Tucker. Yeah. This because of what happened on I-70. You and that old auto car making the modern boys look like amateurs. It wasn't about showing off. I know, it never is with you. They hung up. The second call was harder. Tucker dialed. It rang 4 times. Then a voice. Wary. Hello? Grace, it's Tucker Cade. Silence long enough that Tucker thought she'd hung up. Then Tucker. It's been a while. 12 years. You've been counting. Hard to forget when someone saves your daughter's life. Grace Holloway, 59 years old, ran a recovery operation in New Mexico. In 2012, her daughter Emma had been in a car accident. Single vehicle rollover on a back road. Car ended up in an arroyo. Grace found her but couldn't get her out alone. Called for help. Tucker was the one who answered. Drove 3 hours from Colorado, pulled Emma out. She survived. Married now. 2 kids. But something had broken between Grace and Tucker that day. Not anger. Something else. Grace's husband had died 2 years before Emma's accident. Heart attack. Same age Tucker was now. And that day in the arroyo when Tucker was working to save Emma, Grace had looked at him with something more than gratitude. Had looked at him with possibility. Tucker had seen it, had felt the same thing. But he was married to Nadine, loved her, would never betray her. So after Emma was safe after the rescue was done, he'd left. Kept his distance. Never called. Until now. How's Emma? He asked. Good, really good. Living in Albuquerque. 2 beautiful kids. That's good. I'm glad. Why are you calling Tucker? Straight to it. That was Grace's way. No small talk, no dancing around. I need your help. He explained the program. Titan, the apprenticeship model, teaching the next generation. You want me to come to Denver for 3 months? Yes. To work with corporate types who probably think a woman can't handle heavy equipment. To show them they're wrong. Grace was quiet. I heard Nadine passed. I'm sorry. Thank you. More silence. And I heard you had a heart attack last week. News travels. Small community. People talk. Yeah. Another pause. Is this just about the job, Tucker? His turn to be quiet. I don't know. That was honest. Grace seemed to appreciate honest. I'll do it, but not because you asked. Then why? Because those corporate boys need to learn that a 59-year-old woman can outwork them. Tucker smiled. No doubt about that. And Tucker, yeah, after the 3 months, you and I are going to have a conversation. A real one. About what happened 12 years ago, about what didn't happen. His heart beat faster, the repaired fragile heart that had almost given out 2 weeks ago. Okay, okay. She hung up. Tucker sat in his kitchen, phone still in his hand, processing. He'd just committed to 3 months of intense work, against doctor's orders, against common sense. But it felt right. Felt like the next step. Not retirement, not fading away, but transformation. Taking what he knew and passing it on. Making sure that after he was gone, someone else could make the same choices, could save the same lives, could carry the same torch. That's what Nadine's letter had meant. Not to stop working, but to stop working from guilt, to start working from purpose, from joy even. He looked at the photo of her on the counter. I'm trying, Nadine, I'm really trying. The following Monday, Titan Training Facility, Aurora, Colorado. Tucker arrived at 7 in the morning. Luther was already there leaning against his truck. 1986 Chevy C70 Wrecker. Not as old as Tucker's auto car, but respected, well-maintained, real. You're late, Luther said. I'm 5 minutes early. Like I said, late. They grinned at each other. Hadn't seen each other in 3 years. A conference in Cheyenne, both of them presenting on mountain recovery techniques. Grace pulled in 10 minutes later, driving a 2008 Peterbilt Wrecker. Custom-built boom, heavy-duty winch system, immaculate condition. She climbed out. Jeans, work boots, flannel shirt, hair pulled back in a ponytail. Gray now, most of it, but her eyes were the same. Sharp, assessing, missing nothing. Tucker. Grace. An awkward moment. Then Luther stepped forward. Luther Garrett. Don't believe we've met. Grace Holloway. Heard good things. They shook hands. Brennan approached from the building, followed by 8 young engineers. 4 men, 4 women, all in their 20s and 30s, all looking skeptical. Good morning, Brennan said. Everyone, these are our consultants for the next 3 months. Tucker Cade, Luther Garrett, and Grace Holloway. Combined, they have over 140 years of recovery experience. One of the younger guys whispered to another. Combined age is probably 142. Grace heard it. Walked straight to the kid. What's your name? Cole. Cole Drayton. Well, Cole Drayton, I've pulled more vehicles out of ditches than you've pulled out of parking spaces. So how about we start with respect and see where it goes from there? Cole's face went red. Yes, ma'am. Don't ma'am me. I'm not your grandmother. Call me Grace. She turned to the group. Let's be clear about something. We're not here to entertain you. We're not here to tell war stories. We're here because your company has a 7% failure rate and we have a 0% failure rate. She let that sink in. 7% means 7 out of every 100 people don't go home. That's 7 families destroyed. 7 funerals. 7 failures. Grace pointed at her Peterbilt. That truck has pulled 183 vehicles to safety in 16 years. 183 people went home. If you're willing to learn why, then let's get started. If you're here to mock the old folks, there's the door. Nobody moved. Grace smiled. Good. Tucker, you're up. Tucker stepped forward. Everyone see that auto car over there. He pointed at his truck parked beside the training facility. The engineers nodded. 76 years old, no computer systems, no hydraulic assist, no GPS, just steel and cable and a driver who knows how to use them. He walked toward it. The group followed. Who here can tell me why old equipment might be better than new? Silence. Then a young woman spoke up. It's not better, it's just simpler. What's your name? Aisha. Aisha Williams. Okay, Aisha, you're half right. It is simpler. But simple isn't worse. Sometimes simple is superior. He opened the autocar's hood. Modern trucks have sensors, computer controls, automatic systems. All of that is good when it works. But what happens when it doesn't? You troubleshoot, Cole offered, with what diagnostic equipment. And if you don't have that, then you're stuck. Exactly. Tucker pointed at the autocar's engine. This engine has 6 cylinders: carburetor, distributor, mechanical fuel pump. If something breaks, I can fix it with a wrench and wire. No computer needed. Luther stepped up. Let me tell you a story. 2019, January, I-80 in Wyoming. Blizzard conditions. A family's vehicle went off the road. Temperature was 15 below. Wind chill 40 below. He paused for effect. I responded with my newer truck, 2015 model, all the bells and whistles. Know what happened? What? Aisha asked. Diesel fuel gelled, computer system froze, truck died. What did you do? Called Tucker. He drove up from Colorado with that autocar. 3 hours in a blizzard, pulled the family out, saved their lives. Luther looked at the group. Modern equipment is great until it's not. Old equipment just keeps working. Grace joined them. But that's not the real lesson. The real lesson is knowing your equipment. Modern or old doesn't matter. You need to know every bolt, every cable, every sound it makes. She walked to her Peterbilt. This truck is 18 years old, not vintage like Tucker's, not brand new like yours, somewhere in between, and I know it completely. She opened the driver's door. When the engine hits 2,000 RPM, there's a slight vibration in the steering wheel. Been there for 6 years. Doesn't affect performance, but I know it's there. She pointed at the winch. The brake on the drumstick slightly in cold weather. Below 20 degrees, I have to tap it twice before engaging. Every tech who's looked at it says it's fine, but I know it sticks. She looked at the group. That knowledge comes from time, from paying attention, from giving a damn about your tools. Brennan raised his hand. So what you're saying is, experience matters more than technology. No, all 3 veterans said at once. Tucker continued. We're saying they work together. Technology extends your capabilities. Experience tells you when to trust it and when to trust yourself. He pulled out his phone. I have GPS, I use it, but I also know how to navigate by landmarks, by feel. Luther added, I have load calculators, but I also know how to estimate weight by looking at a vehicle, by feeling how it moves. Grace finished the thought. Technology is a tool. Experience is wisdom. You need both. The next 2 hours were hands-on. Tucker had the team practice setting cable attachments over and over until their hands knew the movements without thinking. Luther taught them how to read terrain, how to spot unstable ground, how to find anchor points that wouldn't fail. Grace demonstrated winch control, the difference between speed and precision, when to pull fast and when to pull slow. By lunch, the young engineers were exhausted, sweating despite the cold, but engaged, really engaged. Cole approached Tucker during the break. Mr. Cade, Tucker. Tucker, I want to apologize for the comment earlier about your age. Heard that, did you? Yes, sir, and I was wrong. You guys are... This is incredible. Tucker studied him. Young kid, maybe 28, eager, wanted to learn. You have a good foundation, Cole. Good education, good instincts, but you're missing something. What's that? Humility. Cole frowned. I don't understand. You came here thinking you already knew most of what you needed, that we were just going to confirm what you'd learned in school. Yeah, maybe. That's pride, and pride gets people killed. Tucker put a hand on his shoulder. Real learning starts when you admit you don't know, when you open yourself to possibility. How do I do that? You already did. You apologized. You're asking questions. That's humility. Keep doing that. Cole nodded. Thank you. The afternoon session was different, more theoretical. Luther talked about decision-making under pressure. In the field, you don't have time to run calculations. You don't have time to consult manuals. You have seconds to make choices that determine whether someone lives or dies. He paced in front of the group. So how do you make those choices? Aisha raised her hand. Experience partially, but more than that. You make them based on principles, rules you've internalized. He counted on his fingers. First, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Rushing creates mistakes. Mistakes kill people. Second, if you don't know, stop. Better to pause and think than to act and fail. Third, trust your gut but verify. If something feels wrong, it probably is, but confirm before making big decisions. Fourth, the person in the vehicle is someone's family, someone's whole world. Treat them accordingly. Grace added her own principles. Fifth, take care of your equipment. Your tools will take care of you. Sixth, never work alone if you can avoid it. A second set of eyes saves lives. Seventh, admit when you're wrong. Ego kills, humility saves. Tucker added the last one. Eighth, do the work for the right reasons. Not for glory, not for money, because someone needs you. That's it. The room was quiet, the weight of those principles settling in. These aren't just rules, Tucker said. They're how you become someone people can trust when everything's going wrong. 3 months became 6, then 9. The pilot program had been extended. Patricia saw the results. The failure rate dropped, 7% to 3, then 2, then over the winter 0. Not a single unrecovered vehicle in 4 months. The young engineers had absorbed the lessons, integrated old and new, became better versions of themselves. Cole Drayton had transformed his early arrogance into confidence, his education into wisdom. He'd successfully completed 8 complex recoveries, including one that Tucker would have called impossible. But Cole figured it out, used principles and technology together, made it work. Tucker was proud. Aisha Williams had specialized in mountain terrain, trained directly with Luther, spent weeks in Wyoming learning rock faces and elevation challenges. She was fearless, calculated but brave, the kind of operator people called when nobody else would take the job. The other 6 engineers had found their own paths, their own specialties. The team was transforming, and Tucker was part of it. Not the center anymore, but a guide, a teacher, a presence. In April, Titan held a company ceremony, recognition event for the training program's success. Tucker didn't want to go, hated ceremonies, but Brennan insisted. You're being honored. You have to be there. I don't need honors. Maybe not, but the people you've taught need to honor you. Let them. So Tucker went. The ceremony was at a hotel in Denver. Fancy ballroom, 200 people, industry professionals, engineers, operators, press. Tucker wore his cleanest jeans, a button-up shirt, his leather jacket, the one with the Road Ghost MC patch. He felt out of place, but Luther and Grace were there, both dressed similarly. Working clothes in a fancy room, they found each other, stood together. This is weird, Luther muttered. Very weird, Grace agreed. Just smile and nod, Tucker said. It'll be over soon. Patricia Hendricks took the stage. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to celebrate the success of our Veteran Operator Partnership Program. Applause. Patricia continued. 9 months ago, we had a problem, a 7% failure rate, 70 people per 1,000 who we couldn't bring home safely. She paused. That was unacceptable, but we didn't know how to fix it. Then Tucker Cage showed us a different way. She gestured toward Tucker. Tucker, Luther, and Grace have spent the past 9 months teaching our teams something we couldn't learn from books, something that can't be programmed into computers. They taught us humility. They taught us patience. They taught us that sometimes the old ways and the new ways need to work together. More applause. As a result, our failure rate is now 0, not 3%, not 2, 0. For 4 consecutive months, every single person we've responded to has gone home safely. Standing ovation. Tucker shifted uncomfortably. And so tonight we're honored to present the Titan Recovery Medal of Excellence to Tucker Cade Luther Garrett and Grace Holloway. The three of them were called to the stage. Tucker walked up slowly, hyper aware of everyone watching. Patricia handed each of them a medal, gold-plated, engraved with their names. Then she surprised them. We've also established the Cade Garrett Holloway Scholarship, a full-ride program for young people who want to enter the recovery profession. Every year, we'll select 3 recipients. They'll receive training mentorship and a path to employment. She looked at Tucker. Your legacy isn't just the lives you've saved. It's the people you've trained to save lives after you're gone. More applause. Tucker stood at the microphone, didn't know what to say, looked out at the crowd, saw Brennan smiling, saw Cole and Aisha and the other young engineers, saw Mac Hollis in the back in uniform beaming, saw reporters with cameras, and for a moment he thought about Ryland, about Nadine, about 45 years of carrying weight, about learning to put it down without forgetting what it meant. He cleared his throat. I'm not good at speeches, so I'll keep this short. 45 years ago, I lost my best friend in an accident. That loss shaped everything that came after. I became a recovery operator because I couldn't save him, and for a long time I thought I was paying a debt. He paused. But my wife taught me something before she died. She taught me that good work isn't penance, it's grace. It's choosing to make something beautiful out of something broken. He held up the medal. This isn't mine. It belongs to Ryland, to Nadine, to every person who didn't make it home, but taught me why it matters that others do. His voice cracked slightly. And it belongs to these young engineers, to Cole and Aisha and all the others who are going to do this work long after I'm gone. He looked at Brennan. Thank you for letting me be part of that. He stepped back from the microphone. The applause was thunderous. After the ceremony, people wanted photos, wanted to shake his hand, wanted to tell him stories about rescues they'd been part of, about lives saved, about families reunited. Tucker was polite, patient, but exhausted. Grace rescued him. Come on, let's get out of here. They slipped out a side door into the cool April night. Luther was already outside, smoking a cigar. That was something, he said. It was, Tucker agreed. They stood in silence. 3 people who'd spent their lives doing work nobody noticed until they needed it desperately. Grace broke the silence. Tucker, can we talk, just the 2 of us? Luther raised an eyebrow. I'll go check on my truck. He walked away. Grace and Tucker were alone. Remember what I said 9 months ago? Grace asked. About having a conversation. I remember. Well, it's time. Tucker's heart beat faster. Okay. Grace stepped closer. 12 years ago, after you saved Emma, I looked at you and saw someone I could build a life with. Someone who understood loss, who understood commitment, who knew how to show up when things got hard. Grace, let me finish. Her voice was gentle but firm. You were married. You loved Nadine. You did the right thing by keeping your distance. I understood that then. I respect it now. She paused. But Nadine's been gone for 7 years, and you've been honoring her memory by refusing to live. Tucker started to protest. Grace held up a hand. I'm not saying you haven't been working. You've been working harder than ever. But working isn't living. It's just another way of hiding. She stepped closer. I'm 60 years old, Tucker. You're 69. We don't have time to waste. So I'm going to ask you directly. Is there room in your life for something besides work? I don't know. That's honest. I appreciate that. Grace, I care about you. Always have. But I'm not sure I know how to be with someone again. How to let someone in. Then learn. We'll figure it out together. She took his hand. I'm not asking you to forget Nadine. I'm asking you to honor her by doing what she asked. Living. Finding joy. Maybe even finding love. Tucker looked at their hands, hers strong and calloused like his. Hands that knew work. Hands that knew how to hold on. I'm scared, he admitted. Me too. But we've both faced scarier things. We can face this together. He looked at her, really looked. Saw someone who understood him, who knew the weight he carried, who wasn't asking him to put it down. just to share it. Okay, he said quietly. Okay, let's try. Let's see what happens. Grace smiled, genuine and warm. That's all I'm asking. May 2025, early morning. Tucker stood in his garage. The autocar sat in the center of the bay, faithful as always. But beside it, covered by a tarp, was something else. Tucker walked over, pulled the tarp off. The 1972 Harley Sportster gleamed underneath. He hadn't ridden it in 46 years, not since that night in 1979. But he'd kept it, maintained it, changed the oil, kept the battery charged, as if someday he might ride again, as if Ryland might forgive him. Tucker ran his hand along the tank. The metal was cold under his palm. "What do you think, Rye?" he said quietly. "Think it's time?" The garage didn't answer, never did. But Tucker made his decision. He straddled the bike, turned the key, kicked the starter. The engine coughed, hesitated, then caught. That familiar sound, different from the autocar's rumble. Higher pitched, more urgent. The sound of freedom, the sound of the road, the sound of Ryland. Tucker let it warm up. Then he eased out the clutch, rolled forward through the bay doors into the morning light. The sun was just coming up, painting the mountains gold. Tucker turned onto the highway. Not west toward work, east toward Highway 287, toward Texas, toward the place where it all began. The speedometer climbed, 40, 50, 60. The wind in his face, the rumble between his legs, the road stretching ahead. For the first time in 46 years, Tucker was riding. Not for work, not for penance, not because someone needed rescuing, just riding. Because Ryland asked him to. Because Nadine wanted him to live. Because maybe, just maybe, it was time to come home to himself. He rode for 3 hours, didn't stop, just kept going. The landscape changed. Mountains gave way to plains, Colorado to Texas. And finally he saw it. Highway 287, mile marker 143, the spot where Ryland died. Tucker slowed, pulled onto the shoulder, shut off the engine. Silence, except for the wind. He climbed off the bike, walked to the roadside. There was a small memorial here. Tucker had built it in 1980. Simple cross. Ryland's name. Dates. The paint had faded. The wood was weathered, but it was still standing. Tucker stood in front of it, held the Road Ghost MC jacket in his hands. The one he'd worn for 45 years. The one Ryland gave him. "I'm here, Rye," he said. "Not to apologize anymore, not to carry it, just to say thank you." The wind picked up, rustling through the grass. "You asked me not to stop riding. I stopped for 46 years, but I kept pulling, kept bringing people home. 51 of them, brother. 51. Tucker's voice was steady. No tears, just truth. "I know that doesn't bring you back, doesn't change what happened, but it meant something. Your death meant something. Not because it had to, because I chose to make it mean something." He looked down at the jacket. "Nadine told me the difference between debt and grace. Took me 45 years to understand, but I get it now." Tucker draped the jacket over the cross. Let it hang there. The Road Ghost MC patch visible, faded but readable. "So I'm leaving this here. Not because I'm forgetting you, because I'm finally forgiving myself, because you'd want me to, because it's time." The wind caught the jacket, made it flutter. "I met someone, Rye, Grace, good woman, strong, understands. I think you'd like her." Tucker smiled. "I'm not giving up the work. Still got the autocar, still bringing people home. But now I'm doing it because I choose to, not because I owe it." He stood there for a long moment, listening to the wind, feeling the weight lift from his chest, the weight he'd carried for 46 years. "Rest now, brother. You've been riding in that passenger seat long enough. Time for me to ride alone. Time for me to ride home." Tucker turned, walked back to the Harley, climbed on, started the engine. One last look at the memorial, at the jacket hanging there. Then he turned the bike around, headed back toward Colorado, toward Grace, toward the life Nadine wanted him to live, toward home. The road stretched out, unknown, uncertain, but full of possibility. And for the first time since 1979, Tucker felt light. Not because the debt was paid, because there was no debt. There never had been. Just a choice. Made every day for 45 years. A choice to make something good from something terrible. A choice to turn penance into grace. A choice to live. Tucker rode into the sunrise, engine humming, wind in his face, free. Still here, brother. Still riding. But now I'm riding home.